But I broke it here, and it's my clavicle, which is like broke it here. It's good though.
So well, it's a beautiful service, but it's
Just put it in a sling where it is.
yeah.
And, you know, I didn't move it too much.
When my daughter was 3 years old, she tried to climb that crib, so I let her stay for That's climbing out of the crib, and she fell and broke the collarbone.
So she had to come up with stay to the street, drive up.
I promised my younger brother now she might need some work. That was the thing on this issue.
That's
So we have the market.
Is it the same day? Is it Sunday? Giving us
I could possibly come at some just
Automatically, you get out the way.
We're going
kids always want
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everybody. Just a few announcements, not really much tonight. Just a reminder about the Hanukkah party tomorrow evening, begins at 6. It's going to be a potluck. So if you don't know what that means, just see me or me. I'll let you know what that's about. Bring your Hanukkah, because we'll be lighting them up. And we'll have a great time tomorrow evening, celebrating the 7th day of Hanukkah together. Of course, that means we'll do games and all that kind of good stuff tomorrow, so there's no traditional Havdalah and game night this month. That will take care of it for us. Normally we would have our Shabbat morning service tomorrow morning, our informal service, but we're going to postpone that because we're all going to be getting together tomorrow anyway. So we'll do that again on the 28th. Is that right? 28th?
Well,
That's
20
tomorrow.
Oh, that is tomorrow.
It'll be, I can't remember.
The second.
The second
Yeah, the
Shabbat.
second Saturday in January.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. Everybody got that? Quiz on it later. Okay. Also, don't forget about our weekend retreat. The lovely green flyer here. If you haven't already signed up, we will start a waiting list. If you would like to have a room, all the rooms are booked right now, but there might be a possibility of an opening. So if you'd like to come and you haven't signed up already, let Matt, can they let you know that? Let Matt know, and we'll put your name on the waiting list. On the other side of that nice, lovely green flyer, just a reminder about the yeshiva classes that are coming up. They'll be starting, I think, about the 3rd week of January. So, as always, the first 2 classes you attend are free. On the 3rd class, they'll be holding out their hand for payment. So take advantage of that. And I think that's just about it. Our service tonight will be a Hanukkah service. So we're going to be using the machzors that they should be in your pew waiting for you. Hopefully everybody has one. So we'll actually begin, gosh, I lost my page already.
166.
Thank you.
Yeah, 166. Sorry.
166. And Jacob will begin by lighting the Hanukkah candles.
The light that lights the others is called the shamash, or the servant candle. It gives light to all the others. It reminds us, as does the daily Amidah, of the lengthening of the light of the Messiah, Yeshua himself. He entered our history as a baby, accompanied by that heavenly light that guided the Magi, one Hanukkah evening many centuries ago. And so we can enthusiastically respond, as is customary on Hanukkah, Nes Gadol Hayam Sham, a great miracle happened there. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim. I'm sorry. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim. I'm sorry, I forgot the tune. What's the tune again? I'm sorry. I'm just losing it. Heinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet. Wait, I'm on the wrong one. That's why. Okay. So excuse me. Sorry about that. Thanks.
You can just say it.
Yeah. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who hallowed us by your commandments and allowed us to light the Hanukkah lights. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who worked miracles for our forefathers in days of old during this season. If anyone wants to join me with the Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh Amen. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who kept us alive, sustained us, and privileged us to reach this season. The sixth light reminds us of the 6 days that Judah led the Jewish people against the forces Antiochus sent to crush the nation of Israel. But the Maccabees and their followers prevailed against enormous odds. They defeated the forces of Antiochus, as the prophet Zechariah said, "Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord." The fifth light reminds us of Mattityahu's 5 sons, Yochanan, Shimon, Judah, Eliezer, and Yonatan. They were called the Maccabees, a Hebrew acronym for "Who is like you, O Lord?" Under Judah, they led the fight against the Syrians. Eventually, all but one died in battle. But they recaptured Jerusalem, cleansed and rededicated the temple, and instituted Hanukkah. The fourth night reminds us of the number 4, written in Hebrew as Dalet. Dalet is the letter that begins and ends the name of David, Israel's great king. God promised that David's greatest son, the Messiah, would rule Israel one day, as the Aleinu anticipates each Shabbat. Antiochus tried to extinguish that hope, but God made sure that hope would still burn brightly until Messiah was born in David's hometown. The fourth light also reminds us of the 4 sides of the dreidel we use during Hanukkah: Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin. The Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin represent the traditional Hanukkah phrase, Nes Gadol Hayah Sham, a great miracle happened there. As truly great miracle did happen there in Israel one Hanukkah evening, as Isaiah and Micah promised. At that time, God himself was not only with us, but became one of us as a tiny baby. The third light reminds us of the 3 years the temple stood defiled by the abomination of desolation. A statue of Zeus stood there, and pigs were sacrificed to it. But God promised through Daniel that the darkness would end soon, and he told his people exactly when the desolation would end, and the light would dawn. The second light reminds of 2 nations, the greatest empire of Syria and the tiny nation of Israel. The great empire tried to swallow up the tiny nation, but as the Jewish people stood strong for their God and their faith, as the prophet Daniel predicted, so they preserved their identity and protected their destiny, ensuring the survival of the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, and God's purpose for the world through them. The first light reminds us of one man, Antiochus, who defied God and tried to destroy God's people. He prohibited the reading of the Torah, the practice of circumcision and kashrut, and the observance of Shabbat. But one man had the courage to stand against him, a priest named Mattityahu. He shouted, "Whoever is for God, let him follow me."
We light these candles because of the miracles, deliverance, and wonders you performed for our fathers by means of your holy priests. During the 8 days of Hanukkah, these lights are sacred. We look at them in order to remember to thank you for your miracles, deliverance, and wonders. And the other wonder we also look forward to every week is Shabbat. And so, as we normally do each week, we light the Shabbat candles to welcome the weekly Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvoto v'tzivanu lehalik nershel Shabbat. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has set us apart by your commandments and commanded us to light the candles for the Sabbath. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvoto v'tzivanu lahayot or lagoyim v'natan lanu Yeshua mitzukenu ha'olah olam. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us by your commandments and commanded us to be a light for the nations, and gave us Yeshua, our Messiah, the light of the world. Shabbat shalom. And happy Hanukkah, everybody.
Okay, as we follow along, we are not going to do this song, but we will be doing Ma'od Sur, and Jacob will lead us in that. And I believe if you are hip to the tune, the Hebrew transliteration is inside the programs for you.
Ma'od Sur Yeshuati L'chana L'shabeya Tikon Beitei Filati V'sham Toda Nezabeya Le'etachin Matbeya Mitzar Hamnabeya Az Egmor Bashir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeya Az Egmor Bashir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeya. Rock of ages, let our song praise thy saving power. Thou amidst the raging foes wast our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but thine arm availed us, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. And thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Children of the martyr race, whether free or fettered, wake the echoes of the songs where ye may be scattered. Yours the message cheering that the time is nearing, which will see all men free, tyrants disappearing, which will see all men free, tyrants disappearing.
All right, so we will continue on with the Shema. If everybody will please rise and face Jerusalem, the direction of the ark. And the Shema is found on pages 14 to 17.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed, Ve'ata et Adonai Elohecha, Bechol levacha u'chol nafshecha u'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher Elohim tzavcha hayom al levecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, uvlechtecha b'derech, uvshachbecha uv'umecha, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Blessed be He whose glorious Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your life, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates.
Please remain standing as we prepare ourselves for the Amidah. We are only going to be doing paragraphs 4 through 7 on pages 166 through 171. Since it is quite a longer portion here, I'll try to do some pieces to keep us all together as we are approaching God and worshiping Him together, but as one assembly. Please do not do the section that says on Saturday night add. We will, however, do the sections in parentheses since this is Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Miketz HaShabbat v'Yisrael v'Hazmani. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord, who hallows the Sabbath and Israel and the seasons. Can we continue? Baruch atah Adonai, hamachazir shekinato l'Tzion. Deserving of praise are you, Lord, who returns your presence to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha ne'eh lehodot. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord, gracious one, to whom it is pleasant to give thanks. Bless us, our Father, all of us together with the light of your presence. For in the light of your presence you gave to us, Lord our God, the Torah of life and love and kindness and righteousness and blessing and mercy and life and peace. May you bless your people Israel at all times and in all seasons with your peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Deserving of praise are you, O Lord, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Anachnu malpalim kol takanunenu, Hashem Yeshua, Meshechenu. We offer all our prayers in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. You may be seated. Oh, actually, no, you may not be seated. We're now going to be entering our the Torah service of our service tonight. So please turn to page 50 for Vayehi ben Soah. There's pages 50 to 51 in the Machzor. And please rise.
Vayehi ben Soah Aaron, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai vayafutzo evacha, vayanusu mesanecha mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udavar Adonai Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'Kedushato. And it came to pass, whenever the ark went forward, Moses would say, Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. May those who hate you flee from before you. For from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of the Lord out of Jerusalem. Blessed be he who in holiness gave the Torah to his people Israel.
The response to the Torah proceedings is found in the regular Siddur on pages 133. We will only be doing this version of the response.
The ark now unveils its treasure.
To
our eyes
and minds and hearts.
It stands there with all its richness and wisdom.
As we listen, voices speak, voices of our ancestors.
Sorry, everyone go together. Sorry about that. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Joseph, and Moses. Oh God, they bring us your instructions for us.
Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and Miriam speak to us as well.
O God, they move us to respond to your promises to us.
We are grateful for your words, the words of Torah.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord calls.
We will hear your words, that we may learn them, love them, live them.
What does the Lord require of you? To fear him, love him, serve him, and walk in all his ways.
All the Lord has said, we will do.
blessings are found on pages 52 and 55 of the Machzor.
Mishavarach Elotim, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Carrie. May he bless Richard. May he bless Jenny. And may he bless Vicky. Sorry. Who have all come up to honor God in the Torah. May the Holy One bless them and their families and send blessing and prosperity in all the work of their hands. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lahanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein ha'torah.
Amen.
Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and has given us the Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of Torah.
ויהי מחטא שנתיים ימים ופרעה חולם, והנה עומד על היור, והנה מן היור עולות 7 פרות יפות, מראה ובריאות בשר, ותירנה באכו. והנה 7 פרות אחרות עולות אחריהן מן היור, רעות מראה ודקות בשר. ותעמודנה אצל הפרות על שפת היור. ותאכלנה הפרות רעות המראה ודקות הבשר את 7 הפרות יפות המראה והבריאות, ויקץ פרעה. You may be seated. So then it was at the end of 2 years that Pharaoh dreamt, and behold, he was standing at the Nile, and behold, from the Nile came up 7 handsome, pretty, or cute cows, since it's alliterative. And they were healthy in appearance, so they were cute, fat cows. And they were grazing or pasturing in the marsh grass. And behold, 7 other cows came up after them from the Nile. And these were not so pleasant looking cows. And in fact, they were lean in flesh. So they were skinny, ugly cows. And they stood next to the cows that were there at the bank of the Nile. And the not so pretty cows that were lean, they, devoured the 7 cute cows that were nice and plump and fat. Then Pharaoh awoke. And you'll get other stuff from Rabbi Schiffman in a little bit.
Talking about fat cows.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu torat emet l'chayei olam l'tabatochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
You grant blessings, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has given to us the Torah of truth and has thus provided us the way of everlasting life. You grant blessings, O Lord, giver of the Torah.
Please rise for Vizot HaTorah. It is found on pages 54 and 55.
Vizot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. This is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel at the Lord's command through Moses.
The half-Torah blessing.
The half-Torah blessings are found on pages 54 and 57. You may be seated.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emanim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'mei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
You grant blessings, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who selected good prophets, delighting in their words which were spoken truthfully. You grant blessings, O Lord, who chose the Torah, your servant Moses, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness.
Then the angel of Adonai gave Yehoshua this warning. Adonai Tzavaot says this: If you will walk in my ways, obey my commission, judge my house, and guard my courtyards, then I will give you free access among these who are standing here. Listen, High Priest Yehoshua, both you and your colleagues seated here before you, because these men are a sign that I am going to bring my servant Tzemach, meaning sprout. For look at the stone I have put in front of Yehoshua. On one stone are 7 eyes. I will engrave what is to be written on it, says Adonai Tzavaot, and I will remove the guilt of this land in 1 day. When that time comes, says Adonai Tzavaot, you will all invite each other to join you under your vines and fig trees. Then he answered me, This is the word of Adonai to Zerubbabel, not by force and not by power, but by my spirit, says Adonai Tzavaot. What are you, you big mountain? Before Zerubbabel you will become a plain, and he will put the capstone in place as everyone shouts, It's beautiful, beautiful.
I'll be reading.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Sur kohalamim tzaddik b'hodarot ha'el ha'ne'aman hayom ve'yosei hamdeberum ka'im shechol davarav emet v'tzedek ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'amanim devarecha ודבר אחד מדבריך, אור לא ישוב ריקם כי אל מלך, נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבר. You grant blessings, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, rock of all ages, righteous throughout all generations. You are the faithful God, promising and then performing, first speaking and then fulfilling. For all your words are true and righteous. Faithful are you, O Lord our God, and faithful are your words. For no word of yours shall remain unfulfilled. You are a faithful and merciful God and King. You grant blessings, O Lord our God, who are faithful in fulfilling your words. Have mercy on Zion. It is the fountain of our life, and very soon deliver her who grieves deeply. You grant blessings, O Lord our God, who makes Zion rejoice with her children.
And Zion's children rejoicefully respond. Make us joyful,
O Lord our God, with the prophet Elijah, your servant, and with the kingdom of the house of David, your anointed. May Elijah come soon and bring joy to our hearts. Allow no stranger to sit on David's throne or inherit his glory. For by your holy name you swore to him that his light would not be quenched forever. You grant blessings, O Lord, shield of David.
I'll be reading from Haggai. For this is what Adonai Tzvaot says. It won't be long before one more time I will shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land. And I will shake all the nations, so that the treasures of the nations will flow in. And I will fill this house with glory, says Adonai Tzvaot. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, says Adonai Tzvaot. The glory of this new house will surpass that of the old, says Adonai Tzvaot. And in this place I will grant shalom, says Adonai Tzvaot. So please keep this in mind. From this day on, from the 24th day of the 9th month, from the day the foundation of Adonai's temple was laid, consider this. There's no longer any seed in the barn, is there? And the vine, fig tree, pomegranate tree, and olive tree have produced nothing yet, right? However, from this day on, I will bless you. The word of Adonai came a second time to Haggai on the 24th day of the month, as follows. Tell Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, I will shake the heavens and the earth. I will overturn the thrones of kingdoms. I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the nations, and I will overturn the chariots and the people riding them. The horses and the riders will fall, each by the sword of his brother.
And so true shalom comes when we allow the Torah to take root in our lives. And that blessing is, we are reminded by that in Etz Chaim. And Etz Chaim is found on pages 56 to 57.
It's sorry. Sorry about that. No. It's Chaim Hilal Machazikim Ba Betom Keha Meushar Deracheha Darchei Noam Vechol Natiroteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu V'kedem Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu V'kedem. A tree of life it is to those who take hold of it, and happy are those who support it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Turn us, Lord, to you, and let us return. Renew our days as of old.
Please rise now as we return the scroll to its place. And we will do Uvnu Cho Yomar, which is found on pages 58 and 59.
Uvnochol Yomar, Shuva, Adonai Revavot Alfei Yisrael. When the ark rested, Moses would say, Return, O Lord, to the myriads of Israel's families. Arise, O Lord, to your resting place, you and your mighty ark. Clothe your priests with righteousness. May those who have experienced your faithful love shout for joy. For the sake of your servant David, don't delay the return of your Messiah. Ba'avor David Abdecha, al tashev b'nei yishichecha. Ki l'hak tov natati lechem, torati al ta'azovu. I give you good instruction, do not forsake my Torah.
All right, while we're up here welcoming each other, take a moment or two just to welcome each other down there. Okay, if we can make our way back to our seats, we're going to finish the service up here. We'll be doing half Kaddish tonight, and half Kaddish is found on pages 18 to 19 of the Machzor, and Jacob will lead and we will respond.
Yit gadol v'yit gadash shomei rabba. Me'ama divrach yirutei v'yamnik machotei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala u'vizman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach Le'olam u'mehomaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach Yitpa'av V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yithale V'yithalal Shmei d'chodesha barichu Ne'ela minchu birchata v'shirata Tushbachata v'nechamata amiran be'alma v'yimru Amen. Magnified and hallowed be the great name of God throughout the world which he created according to his will. May he establish his kingdom during your lifetime and during the lifetime of all the house of Israel, speedily, soon. And let us all say,
Amen.
May his great name be blessed forever and ever. Blessed, praised, and glorified, exalted, extolled, and honored. Magnified and lauded be the name of the Holy One, blessed be he, whose glory transcends, yes, is beyond all blessings and hymns and praises and songs which are uttered in the world, and say, Amen.
And of course, it wouldn't be a Hanukkah service if we did not read the Maccabean story. So I will now like to call up our reader, if she will come up. And if you'd like to follow along with Celia, it begins on page 173 and goes through the top of page 176.
Now it happened that in the 23rd year of his reign, which was 213 years after the rebuilding of the temple by Ezra the scribe, King Antiochus said to his generals, Abolish the Torah and all the academies where it is taught from the land of the Jews. Kill all those who observe the Jewish customs. They no longer may circumcise their male infants, and they may not observe their dietary laws. Compel them to violate the Sabbath, to bow before our gods, and bring their sacrifices to them on our altars. And send my servants throughout the land to see that this be done. And the generals did as Antiochus told them. They went throughout the entire land of Israel, and they pulled down the synagogues and the houses of study. They defiled and destroyed the Torah scrolls and killed all who complained. There were many martyrs who died to uphold God's name, and their blood was on the head of Antiochus. Not long after that, the heathen priests of Antiochus consecrated the temple to their god, chief god Zeus, and they raised his great statue of him upon the altar in the sanctuary. In his honor they sacrificed a pig among the altar and sprinkled its unclean blood in the sanctuary. Now it has so happened that Apelles, a Greek official, came to the village of Modin, which was not far from Jerusalem, to carry out the decree of Antiochus. He raised an altar to the Greek gods and commanded the Jews to sacrifice a pig on it. Among those who gathered was Mattatyahu, an old priest of the Hasmonean clan, and his 5 sons, Yohanan, Shimon, Judah, Eleazar, and Yonatan. When Mattatyahu heard about the abomination Apelles wished the Jews to perform, he said to them, O my brothers, let all the nations of the provinces that are subject to King Antiochus obey him if they choose, even to the extent of betraying the religion of their forefathers. But we swear we shall not leave the path of our religion to go either to the right or to the left. With these words he killed Apelles. Then Mattatyahu cried out to the Jews, Take up arms, whoever is for God and his holy law, let him follow me. And many followed him. Shortly afterwards, Mattatyahu died, and Judah took his place as leader. He was so invincible in battle that the Jews called him Maccabee, which is Aramaic, means hammer, for he struck at the Greeks like a hammer, blow after blow. When King Antiochus heard of this, he grew very angry and sent army after him to punish the Jews. But Judah swooped down on them unexpectedly from the hills and crushed them all. So Antiochus sent his most cunning generals and over 50,000 men. When the Jews saw how the enemy vastly outnumbered their own forces, they were struck with fear. Seeing this, Judah said to them, Terrible indeed is the might of the Greeks, but more terrible is the vengeance of the Lord when he strikes at the wicked. Do not fear the enemy, even though they are many and we are but few. Know that God is with us, even though we are weak, and our righteous cause will triumph over their greater numbers. Therefore take heart and be courageous. And so it was his custom before battle. Judah fasted and prayed. He also confessed his sins, and his men did as he did. Then they were no longer afraid. And when the moment came to strike, Judah commanded the trumpeters to sound the call to battle. Judah and his men then attacked the enemy, who ran in confusion and terror, and they killed many of those that resisted them. After the enemy retreated, Judah assembled the people of Jerusalem, and he said to them, Let us go up to the house of God and purify it, for it has been wickedly profaned. And after they had carefully purified the temple, and threw out all the idols and their altars, they brought in new vessels, the 7-branched golden menorah, the table of showbread, and the altar of incense. They also put down the altar for burnt offerings, which had been profaned, and built a new one in its place. And so on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, Judah rededicated the temple. He lit the lamps of the menorah and offered incense and burnt offerings on the altar. However, when they wished to light the lamps, they looked for pure olive oil, but they found none except one small vessel. The vessel contained oil sufficient for use for 1 day only. Yet a miracle happened. The oil burned for 8 days until new holy oil could be prepared. And in commemoration of the rededication of the temple, Judah decreed that on the 25th day of Kislev, each of each year, the Jews were to celebrate the Festival of Lights, or Hanukkah, for 8 days. They were to burn lights during this period, adding a new light each night, and sing songs of praise to celebrate the triumph of Israel in the struggle for its freedom.
Thank you, Celia. It's a wonderful story, a great reminder of the story of the Maccabees. And of course, without the Maccabees and without the story of Hanukkah, we couldn't have just celebrated, well, we wouldn't be here, but we definitely wouldn't have just celebrated the season of Rishon. So thank you, Celia, for reading that for us. Okay, so it is now my pleasure to have Rabbi Schiffman come up. He will be giving us the drosh for tonight. It is a great honor to have him here. He's been here a few times for us in the past. I know we're all looking forward to what you have to say, and very grateful that you've come all the way up this way north to talk to us. So without further ado, our very own Rabbi Dr. Schiffman.
Is this microphone on?
Yep.
Can you hear me okay? No?
No.
Well, it's on, so if you can't hear me, it's too bad. Can you read lips?
I can give him my, if it's not gonna work.
You could try your mic.
Try it now.
Well, this is this any better?
No.
Yeah, it's on, it's on. Oh,
Oh, that's weird.
No.
Oh,
No.
Yeah, it's on.
not working.
It doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
I have a nicer voice. How's this?
Okay, I just turned it on.
How's this?
Yay.
All right. Oh, this is the Cantor's microphone. So that's how you sound so good now. It's the mic. The passage tonight, the passage this weekend, is from Genesis chapter 41. It's one of my favorite people in the Bible, is Joseph. Did you know that page for page, Joseph gets more coverage than Abraham? Really, there's more about Joseph and his life than Abraham's. Now, usually that means, there's something important going on. But I've always identified with the early life of Joseph because he was the favorite child. And growing up, believe it or not, I was the favorite child. I mean, if I wanted it, I got it. My sisters, not so much. They're still fuming about it 60 years later. I told them that, you got to move on. Life goes on. But Joseph grew up favored, and not just favored, but in a way he was very passive. Everything got handed to him, for good or for bad. In last week's section, it talks about Joseph being his father's favorite child. He got the really cool, multicolored robe. His brothers were so jealous that they sold him into slavery, which was also kind of passive. He didn't go, I want to go to Egypt. He was sold into slavery. And then he's bought I don't think people should own other people. There's something wrong about it. But he was bought by Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials. And according to the text, it says that God was with him. And Potiphar saw that God was with him and put him in charge of all the other slaves. If you're going to be a slave, you might as well be the one that's in charge. At least that's my thinking. Although why anyone would want to be a slave is beyond me. But Potiphar put him in charge of his whole house because he saw God was with him and blessed him. In spite of his brothers selling him into slavery, God was still with him. And then Potiphar's wife looks upon Joseph and likes what she sees, and she makes a pass. Let's face it, that's what it was. She made a pass. He said, no way, runs out. She grabs his clothes and says, look what he tried to do to me. So he gets framed. And he gets thrown into prison. And then the scripture says, but God was with him. And what happens? The head of the prison notices that God is with him. And he's put in charge of all the other prisoners. He's running the jail. If you're going to be in jail, you might as well run it, right? This makes sense. I mean, if you're going to go that, it's, again, why anyone would want to be in prison is beyond me. But he is put in charge. He wasn't running for head of the prison. It was passive. As a slave, it was passive. As a prisoner, it was passive. And God blessed him. And God was with him in the midst of these terrible things that were happening to him. And then, two of Pharaoh's officials, the baker and the cupbearer, get thrown into prison because of some little misunderstandings, of course. We know how that goes. And they have dreams. And they come, and they're told that Joseph can interpret dreams. And Joseph says, no, I can't. But God can interpret your dream. God is always with him. And yet, he gives glory to God. He is aware that what he has, all that favor and all those blessings, really are from God. He suffers in prison. His exact words when he's talking to he interprets the dreams. The baker's going to get it, and the cupbearer is going to go free. According to the Midrash, the baker was hung because they put, when he baked bread for Pharaoh, there was gravel in it. So it was more like an intentional act. Whereas for the cupbearer, they said he offered a cup of wine to Pharaoh and a fly flew in it. Now, was that really what happened? Who knows? The guys who wrote that, they don't know either. It was a long time before that. But Joseph interpreted the dreams. And when the cupbearer was going back to Pharaoh, and he had seen what had happened to the baker, just as he had foretold, he said, remember me to Pharaoh, that was the only time he asserted himself. Please, get me out of here. Because he may have been running the prison, but it was still a prison. And who wants to be there? Nobody. Not even the people running it. So he said, remember me to Pharaoh. And what happens? 2 years passed, and he didn't remember him to Pharaoh. He did nothing for him. Well, it tells us something about the walk of a believer. We think that we're on a joyride when we accept Yeshua. How many of you have felt like you're on a joyride? Life is just so peachy that you have to pinch yourself to see if you're really awake because everything is so good. No? Come on, don't be shy. No, because life is hard. Life has struggles. I don't want to hear your struggles, so don't tell me. And you don't want to hear mine either. But we have them. Life is full of difficulty, and when we become believers, the difficulties are still there. Joseph started out as the favorite son. Out of 12 sons, he was the favorite. And life beat him up. He got thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and then put in prison for years. He could say, my whole life, half my life is gone. What good is this? What has God done to benefit me? But yet God was with him through his difficulties, through each step of the way. Why is that significant? Because God had given him dreams that were promises. I saw the sun, the moon, and the stars bowing down to me. The sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowing down to me. I don't have to tell you, you have a vision like that, it can go to your head. I didn't have a dream like that, but I'm willing to let that happen. I saw we each had stalks of grain, and all your stalks bowed down to mine. That can really go to your head. Not only is he the favorite kid, but he's got even his parents bowing down to him in these dreams. And then he's thrown in a pit. His brothers make up a story that he was killed by animals. And then he's made a slave. And then for years, he's rotting in a prison. Through the horrible things of his life, he learned humility. And the fact that he could say, I cannot interpret your dream, but God is the interpreter of dreams. And God can tell you what this means. It tells us that through all the difficulties in his life, even though he had the promises of God, he learned humility. And that was so important for him as the story continues. It says after 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. And behold, there came out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump. What do you call them, fat cows? As a formerly heavy person, I'm kind of offended by that. Except fat is good.
That is good.
Those skinny ones, There's a blessing in the Bible every time I read it, I tell you. 7 beautiful, plump cows, cute cows. The kind of cows you see on a Chick-fil-A commercial. Came out. And they were eating and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And then 7 skinny, ugly cows came after them. And the skinny, ugly ones ate the big ones. You can't trust a skinny cow. Just can't. And Pharaoh woke up. And he went to his officials and wanted to know what these things meant. But they couldn't tell him. Oh, great Pharaoh. You can make up a story and it sounds good. But then you got to hope it's going to come about. That happens to me like when I'm selling Torahs. People ask me all the time, can you tell me the background of this Torah? I said, I can make up a wonderful background, but it's going to cost you more. I can tell you the truth for free, but I can make up a beautiful story how this Torah was smuggled out from under the Nazis. But it cost you an extra 1,000. Nobody takes me up on that. I'm willing to, the cupbearer says, Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. He didn't want to bring it up. Because when Pharaoh is mad at you and he's like all powerful, you don't want to remind him. There was a time you threw me in prison with the baker and we had dreams. And there was this young Hebrew guy. And he interpreted the dreams. And came about just as he said. So Pharaoh calls for Joseph after 2 long years. Think about that. What were you doing 2 years ago? Where were you? It's a long time. If I said, I won the lottery, I'm going to give you each $100,000, but you got to wait 2 years. I'd be getting calls every 5 minutes. You sure you're going to give it to me? Or do I have to wait 2 years? He had to wait 2 more years. He was in there a long time already. And Pharaoh calls for him. And he's excited. And Pharaoh, of course they had to wash him down, shave him, because you can't appear before Pharaoh dressed like a schlump. And so he comes before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh says, I hear you can interpret dreams. And he says, no. But God can reveal the meaning of your dreams. It's kind of a strong statement when you're talking to a man who thinks he's the son of the sun god, who thinks he is God himself on earth. And he says, my God can tell you what these dreams mean. It's also kind of strong because what if God doesn't tell him? Except God has always been with him. And he was trusting that God, at this great juncture, would be with him. It's a big thing to trust because all the dreams that he had before hadn't come about. Nobody was bowing down to him. Not wheat, not sun, moon, and stars, not his father, not his mother, not his brothers. Nobody was bowing down to him. He was a prisoner in jail. And nobody even wants to think about prisoners in jail, let alone bow before them. So he had to trust God. And he did, because even though his dreams hadn't come about, he could see that God was still with him. It's also a parallel with us. We have dreams. We have hopes. Maybe no one's bowing down to you in your dream, but you've got dreams and hopes. And they haven't all happened. But we know that God is with us. You see, that faith and that knowledge that God is with you is what keeps you going. It enables you to take the next step, so that when you're called before kings and pharaohs, you can say with some degree of assurance that God can reveal to you the meaning of your dreams. And he tells them the dream, and then he tells Pharaoh what the dream means. And then he says, so Pharaoh, what you need to do, now this is where a little initiative goes a long way. I love that. What you need to do is find someone wise, someone, a man of understanding, and put him in charge for the 7 good years. Build storehouses, so when the 7 bad years come, you're prepared. Pharaoh's no dummy. He knows how the game is played. Who could I find better than this guy? He puts his ring on him, puts robes on him, and he becomes the second in charge of Egypt. In a sense, the world. In everything, he was the greatest man of power in the world, other than Pharaoh. That doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen at all. But it happened to Joseph. One of my favorite things about Joseph is he is the clearest picture of Yeshua in the scripture outside of the Gospels. Because he wasn't born in a palace. He was born in a stable, in a manger, a feeding trough. You could make allusions to the bread of life if you want, but I wasn't going there. He was a carpenter. He worked with his hands, not a man of leisure. And yet, he was made second only to the Father in heaven, so that at the name of Yeshua, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Yeshua is Lord. Just like every knee bowed to Joseph. There has never been a Jewish leader since then with as much power and authority as that which Joseph had, with the world bowed before him. So he's put in charge of all the grain. He's buying up grain, he's building storehouses. And he's risen to power. Because he was in charge of saving the lives, not only of the Jewish people, his own people, but of the people of the world. He was given the Egyptian name Zaphaneth Paneah, deliverer of the world. A picture again of Yeshua. He had gold chains, he had all the trappings of power. He looked like a pharaoh. So when the famine, the 7 years of famine came, it said the whole world was coming to Joseph. Maybe they didn't think, maybe people looked and go, oh, big deal, the Pharaoh put him in charge, he'd be nothing without Pharaoh. They were singing a different tune when they were hungry. And the whole world came to buy grain from Joseph. And lo and behold, one day, who should appear before him? His brothers. It's in the text. I mean, you can't write stuff this good. And they bowed. They all bowed low before him. He recognized them, but they didn't recognize him, and he didn't tell them. It's such a parallel with today. Yeshua, the Messiah of Israel, the King of Israel, is worshipped and revered by half the world. They bow before him. They've made statues of him. They've dressed up the statues with gold. And they sing his praises. But his own brothers don't recognize him. The important thing is not that they recognize him at this point. He still takes care of them. Do you remember what it says? He filled up their bags with grain, and then he put the money back. You know why? Well, he didn't need their money, first of all. But secondly, he wasn't doing business with them. He was taking care of his family. Some of that grain was going to be for his father. Some of it was going to be for his brother Benjamin. And some of them were going to be, he was going to be eaten by his brothers who sold him into slavery. With humility is forgiveness. He was taking care of his family. So even if they didn't recognize him, it didn't matter because he recognized them. There have been Christian theologies developed that God doesn't deal with the Jews anymore. I don't buy any of that. It's a lie. God has never stopped loving the Jewish people. And Yeshua is the King of Israel, and he is the Messiah of Israel, whether Israel recognizes it or not. It doesn't matter that they don't recognize him. He recognizes them. And then the passage cuts off, and you have to wait till next week to find out what happens. You want me to tell you? They come back for more grain. And he gives them more grain. And his younger brother Benjamin is there because he kind of insisted. From being passive, he became quite unpassive. Power does that, I guess. I wouldn't know. But, so I've been told. He sets it up so Benjamin is caught with his cup, his special cup, his Kiddush cup. And he says, I'm going to keep Benjamin here as my slave. And his brother Judah comes before him. And I have to read this. It's the most powerful passage in the Bible. Judah says, it says, then Judah went up to him and said, O my Lord, please let your servant speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant. For you are like Pharaoh himself. He realizes the power Joseph had. My Lord, to ask your servant, saying, have you a father or a brother? And we said to my Lord, we have a father, an old man, and a young brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him. We said to my Lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. Then you said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall not see my face again. When we went back to your servant, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And when our father said, go again and buy us a little food, we said, we cannot go down if the youngest brother does not go with us. For we cannot see the man's face unless our younger brother is with us. Then your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me. And I said, surely he has been torn to pieces. I have never seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs to evil to Sheol. I'm at the age where I need reading glasses. Now therefore, as soon as I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, then as his life is bound up in the boy's life, as soon as he sees the boy is not with us, he will die, and your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant our father with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. Now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, make everyone go out from me. So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, so the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were terrified at his presence. So Joseph said to his brothers, come near to me, please. And they came near, and he said, I am your brother, Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God has sent me before you to preserve life. Joseph was changed by his years of slavery and his years of prison. And he came to realize that the hardship of life prepared him to be a tool of blessing, to save many people. our lives may not be Joseph's life. But this tells us two things. When you suffer and when you struggle, you don't know how God will use it to prepare you to become an instrument in his hands. And when you become that instrument, your life becomes vitally important to some people. It also tells us what it will be like for Jewish people when Yeshua returns. He's not going to go, "Nyeh, nyeh, nyeh, I'm really the Messiah, you got it wrong." He's going to say, "I am your brother, Yeshua. Come near to me. Don't be angry with yourselves, for it was for a great deliverance." Because he's their brother. What do you struggle with? What's the difficulty you're facing in your life? It may be preparation for something great. It might be preparation to be a useful tool in God's hands. I would rather be useful to God than useless for anything. God loves us, and he's always with us, but we may have to struggle. But we also need to take initiative when it comes our way. Because everybody doesn't get the same opportunities of life. I got to study and learn from a Hasidic sofer for 12 years. Who gets to do that? Not a lot of people. Did God use it for me? Yes. I struggled with terrible things I won't bring up. Did God use it? Yes. Does God use me now? Yes. I could use a rest, but he uses me. Do you want to be used by God? Do you want to be useful? Look upon the things you struggle with not as barricades and barriers, but as training, that you might be a blessing, and that you might be the presence of God to the people around you as they see him living in your life. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Hanukkah.
Shabbat shalom.
Would you like a working mic?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's always an honor and privilege to hear your story. You're such a great storyteller. And these stories are important. They become important traditions. They become lessons. Without these stories, we can't tell our kids after us and our grandkids and maybe even our great-grandkids one day of the deliverance that has occurred in our past. So some of these stories have happy endings, some of them don't, but they all teach us a lesson, and And so we're very grateful to have you as such a great storyteller, Rabbi Schiffman. Thank you so much. We'll conclude tonight's service as we normally do with the Aleinu. So please rise and let me find the page that it's on. Okay, 30 to 33 in the Machzor. Please rise facing Jerusalem. And Jacob will lead us.
Aleinu l'shabbat la'adon hakol, la'tzeit gedula le'aseh bereishit, shelo asanu kodai haratzot, ve'lo samanu kimishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkeinu kahem, ve'gor aleinu kechal amonam, ve'anachnu משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים עמד ושכינת עוזו וכבד מרומים הוא אלוהינו אלוהינו את מלכנו את מסורתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשאלותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת.
It is necessary for us to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the world, for He has made us distinct from the nations and unique among the families of the earth. Our destiny is not like theirs, our calling is not theirs. We bow down and acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like Him. For He stretched forth the heavens like a tent and established the earth. Truly there is none like our Lord and King. As the Torah says, you shall know this day and reflect in your heart that it is the Lord who is God in the heavens above, and on the earth beneath there is none else. We hope, O Lord our God, to soon behold the majestic glory, when all abominations shall be removed, and all false gods shall be at an end. Then shall the world be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty, and all mankind shall call upon your name. For to you every knee must bow, and every tongue declare that you are God. Reign over us soon and forever. May the kingdom of David's greater son be established forever. For then shall the words be fulfilled. The Lord shall be king forever, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be Lord alone, and his name unique among all others.
Amar, Vahaya Adonai, Lamelech ha'aretz, Hayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushmo
You may be seated. All right, just a couple of reminders here. Hanukkah party tomorrow,